Rounding that one out. Ran in the starting line.
Feeling good.
We're starting at 12:54. So we got a little under 5 minutes.
I can't.
That's not yours. You got the wired one.
I was going to say I could not
Yeah, I
hear
was like,
you.
I can't hear you, Ren.
I know it's cold. We're gonna do fine. Trying to last minute.
We could do one last run through or no? Going? Yeah. I was just curious. Oh.
Remember to turn it back on. All right, 5 people are watching. All right, I'm promoting. I'm promoting. Come on, buddy. Come on. All right. So, what time is it now? 12:55. And I just want to let you all know. Good luck. We're all counting on you. Thank you.
As the only undefeated team left in the National Collegiate Rugby Conference in men's club rugby, the Oregon State Beavers take on the Western Washington Vikings in this conference rivalry matchup. The Beavers look to improve to 5-0 on the year and continue to have their best season under head coach Juwan Johnson. The Vikings, NCRC champions 6 of the last 10 years, look to bounce back after a tough loss against Central Washington last Friday. Hello and welcome, everybody. You are watching KBVR TV. We are live from Student Legacy Park in Corvallis, Oregon. My name is Brady Elliott, joined by my partner, Nick Munoz. Nick, what can we expect to see on the pitch today?
Well, besides bad weather, hopefully really good defense. They're coming off of a strong win against Boise State last week, a 52-17 win. That is a very good balanced attack. I think that Coach Johnson hopes that they can run up the scoreboard again. 50-plus points is pretty dang good. I hope that they can bring that high-flying offense to make this game very entertaining. Of course, bring home the win. As for their defense, they played very loose defense last week, giving up just 17 points, as I said. That is a really good performance. I think that the Beavers have a lot of energy coming into this one. They're getting that huge win on the road against a team that was pretty good in Idaho. So now heading back home here in the I-Fields just down the street from Gill Coliseum and Reser Stadium, you have the home field advantage. I could imagine that they're coming to this one with a lot of excitement.
Definitely, Nick. We had the chance to talk to head coach Juwan Johnson before the match. He told us that this Vikings team may be the best team they will face all season. That being said, he also told us that this is the best team he has ever coached. He preaches a high standard, low expectations philosophy that allows his players to play free and disciplined.
Yeah, Coach Johnson, I think he has the group of guys he wants to go all the way to nationals with. He had almost over 80 students come out and try for the club. That was pretty dang awesome to have that type of turnout for a rugby club. So you got to imagine that Johnson has found the group of men that he wants to take all the way to championship glory. And with the 5-0 start, the fact that they're 4-0 in conference, they have an excellent opportunity here to really make that extra push to go all the way and make nationals. I think that Coach Johnson has done an excellent job of assembling this group of young men. And I think that they are completely bought into what he's preaching. I think they absolutely will go do whatever he tells them to do, and they'll buy it in completely. And I think that this is going to be a very, very hard fought and gritty team that they have this year.
Couldn't agree with you more, Nick. Now let's get into starting lineups.
Right. For the OSU Beavers in the forwards, you have Dylan Espinosa, Ben Nord, Kai Lucas, Quincy Spurlock, Luke Kravich, Jordan Scott, Michael Collin, and Erison Kekakwala. With the back line, you have Sean Crow, Max Spielman, Dakota Pearsall, Anton Orgen, Tristan Garson, Tanner Bai, and Dawson Tarrant rounding out the back half.
And for the Western Washington Vikings, we have Caius Larson, Gus Sorensen, George Jelly, Lyndon Bailey, Fergus Moore, Aiden Ashoff, Carson Lowe, Harry Moore. And for the back line, we have Gabe Galves, Sho Selkia, Eli Ashman, George Pritchard, Oliver Kelher, Charlie Funk, and Liam Herring. Now, we got a good match for you today. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back on KBVR TV.
We muted? Cool. Good job.
We got about 3 minutes.
Welcome back to this dreary day in Corvallis as we are getting ready for kickoff in Student Legacy Park. We have the Western Washington Vikings in the striped blue and white shirts, and we have the Oregon State Beavers in the white and orange shirts.
I believe these are their camo alternates. They look pretty clean.
They are nice looking jerseys.
As we await the opening kickoff now from Washington to Oregon State. They won the coin toss, and I think they will defer to the Beavers as we will await as the refs make the adjustments.
The kickoff will be happening at the center line, and the ball must travel 10 meters before a team can take possession. Kick to the middle of the field received by the Beavers. Met in the middle of the field.
Recovered and moves forward. Good run there. Pass over the outside. Fights for a few more yards. Gets to a scum. Pitches out to the right.
Taken down on the far end of the field. Taking their time before getting the ball ready. Still have possession. A scrum is formed.
Pass out back. Nice pass there, and good kick to the opening field. Wide open. No one around except for a herd of zebras, or excuse me, Vikings. Sorry, these uniforms are very confusing.
The Oregon State Beavers will be receiving the line out as there's a little confusion on the far end.
I think the refs are making an adjustment here.
The Vikings will actually receive the line out as the Beavers kick the ball out of bounds. Number 4 up for the catch through the hands and still received by the Vikings, taken down by number 4 on the Beavs.
It's a good tackle there by Spurlock to keep an open field.
The ball launched up into the close side of the field. And there will be another line out.
There'll be a knockoff on number 14 for the Beavers. Tanner by. Ball no go back automatically to the Vikings.
Looks like we have a scrum being formed with the Vikings holding possession as we have a very loud train passing by at the start of this game.
It's good atmosphere. You know, you always like to have that type of stuff in the background. As the scrum is formed, the ball will be tossed up shortly.
The Vikings player will be able to roll the ball, and they receive it as it falls back into the hands of number 10, and he takes down the end of the field.
Number 10 with good speed. What a way to break open field, man. Great shiftiness there.
A lot of physicality and grittiness early on in this match.
Good shovel pass in the backfield. Great connection so far from the Vikings to start this game.
Long pass to the end of the field. Number 11, one man to beat, and he's taken down out of bounds.
Great explosiveness there. He was wide open. That was a very good methodical play after play. Just consistent backwards passes until they found number 11, who's just so fast. Not expecting that at all.
The Beavers will be taking the line out this time because of Western Washington stepping out of bounds. Number 2, Ben Nord, the hooker, throwing it in, and it's taken over by the Vikings.
As we now have a reset by the refs. They're discussing things out with the Vikings. It was a good little knock by the Beavers. Really have to expect them to start playing tight defense now that it's on their side of the field.
Unclear what the call is, but I believe it's going to be a penalty kick for the Vikings, as there must have been a penalty on the Beavers.
I think they stepped out of bounds on that kickoff. As they will now field the kickoff. This will be only 1 point on the board to take an early lead here.
I believe number 11, Eli Ashman, is taking the penalty kick for the Vikings, about from the midway point 10-meter line. And it is up, and it is through the uprights.
And the Vikings draw first blood, throwing the first points of the game onto the scoreboard. It's a very high, dry kick, but I mean, it works, so you have to give credit where credit is due. The Vikings are able to get their name on the scoreboard first, 2-0.
Good for the Vikings to take control of that penalty and get on the board first.
As we await this kickoff now after the points, the Oregon State Beavers will send it back to the Vikings. Washington coming to this game, like to remind everyone, is 4-3 in conference. Or excuse me, 3-1 in conference, 4-3 on the record here, trying to improve with a win today to 5-3, whilst the Beavers look to defend their undefeated title. As Oregon State will get into the scum.
Number 11, Eli Ashman, kicking it down the field, out of bounds. There will be a line out for the Beavers.
As we will see the Beavers send it back. Of course, I'd like to let everyone know at home we're having a little bit of technical difficulty on the clock. We are, of course, it's still 40-minute time. We haven't changed anything there. It's still winding down. I believe we have about 30 and a half to 25 minutes left in this first opening quarter as the Beavers will receive the kickoff.
And a scrum is formed with the Beavers winning it, pushing forward, strong push from both teams.
This is where it comes important for your leaders to step up with their physicality.
Beavers still with possession of the ball, trying to get the edge. Number 8 taken down. Pass to the far end of the field with the pump fake and taken down. Ball is turned over to the Vikings.
The refs will blow it dead, and that is going toward the Vikings.
Seems as if the Beavers retain possession, as the ref seems to have called a penalty.
I think it is going to be a penalty, Brady.
Seems to be a penalty. We will have number 4, Quincy Spurlock, taking the kick for the Beavers. Hopefully they can take advantage of this penalty and tie this game up.
About a 25-yard kick here, almost to the 30 mark of the field. If they're able to set it up here, we can have a tie game.
Excuse me, I believe number 7, Michael Conlon, will be taking the kick. And it is up. And it is good, right down the middle. Great reply from the Oregon State Beavers.
We have a tie ball game now, 3-3, all tied up here, as we will switch to the opposite side of the field as the Vikings will send it back to the Oregon State Beavers.
Like to see the physicality and grittiness early from both teams here today.
Absolutely. OSU's played very good to start so far. You have to see that they are very much trying to make sure this Vikings team cannot make an adjustment, as we have an injured Viking now on the side.
Can't seem to see his number, but he
Number
seems
7.
to be in some pain, and I hope he can get looked at.
As we will take an injury timeout. Seems to be an issue with his lower knee. One of the biggest rough parts of this sport is, of course, the hard physicality due to the rough nature of how we play this game. And we will tend to number 7 for the Vikings.
Never like to see injuries on the field. Just a part of the game, but such a shame that early on in this game that an injured player for the Vikings.
Absolutely, very early on to this game, as we have about 7.5 minutes so far in this first quarter, as we will await the update on this injury. It seems that it was more of a knock to his knee. And as we will wait from our informants, I believe that it will be either a high sprain or possibly just bruise overall to that knee. And that is a rough injury to take at such a young age, nonetheless, too. That could very much derail a young player's career.
We can see the Beavers huddling up, making sure they stay focused, not let the injury affect their gameplay,
So
game
what have you
style?
seen from this Beavers team so far to start this first half? I mean, almost 7.5 minutes in. You have to imagine that it's a tie game, and the Beavers have so far been playing some very good defense. What do you think so far from this Oregon performance?
Yeah, Nick, I would like to see a little more maybe possession from the Beavers, maybe take care of the ball a little bit better, make those passes, but really take possession of that rugby ball and control the offense that can lead into their defense.
Absolutely. I feel like they need to shore up the penalties a little more, already having 2 penalty kicks this early on. And you're going to have to see that it's going to take a long while before we can get anything going. But as of course, with the injury update, we'll send it right back to you here on KBVR TV, as we will soon have a quick injury break, and we'll get back to you shortly right after this.
And we are back to play after the injury timeout. He was able to get off the field, and we will start with a scrum as the Beavers will throw the ball in.
Great to see him get up under his own power and being helped to the sideline. Just a rough injury there. You never like to see it. That is a horrible way to start the game for the Vikings.
The ball getting kicked around in the feet, and the Vikings receive the possession as number 11 gets taken down in the middle of the field.
Ball up for grabs now from the scrum. It will be passed back over to the Vikings.
Good hit by the Beavers as number 8 is taken down.
Great pass back behind there.
Through the hands of number 11, but he makes a move on a defender, and the ball is loose. Beavers retain possession.
Good recover by the Beavers so far. What a way to recover off the turnover. Pass back over to the middle. Beavers trying to fight for more yards. Pass back deep into their territory. They will now send it high over the middle into Vikings territory, but caught by number 15, who will send it immediately back. Whiffed kick, though.
Whiff kick as it goes out of bounds. The Beavers will be throwing in the line out,
as the refs will collect both teams.
Make sure both teams are in the right positions for this line out. Interesting usage of a return kick right after another kick.
Absolutely. Receiving the kick to immediately send it back, but the Vikings with a very bad kick back into their own territory. That was extremely whiffed. You have to feel like 15 panicked with that play, considering that it went straight up into the air rather than actually moving forward.
The Vikings seem to have swatted that ball out of the air, and they will be able to throw this line out in after breaking up that pass.
8:34 left to go. 8:34 so far in this game. In the first quarter, 3-3 all tied up, as the Vikings will receive the kick.
Number 5 taken down, middle of the field. They retain possession. Pass to the short edge of the field, trying to find space. The scrum is formed as they are taking their time with the ball, and they boot it down to the far end of the field with the Beavers receiving.
That was a good tackle by Tristan Garson. In the wrestling world, we call that a suplex. Picking him up and slamming the Viking defender down. That was a very nice move by Garson.
Vikings kicking that ball out of bounds, able to keep that possession so they could throw the ball in for the line out.
Yeah, and we see the refs discussing the next turn of action as they will assemble.
The Beavers will be throwing the ball in for the line out as the props lift the players up and the Beavers receive it. Ball flies up. The Vikings seem to have taken control. Bodies are dropping, and number 10 across the field. Ball changed to the far end of the field.
Bit of a scuffle as number 10 takes it off downfield, and he'll find his way into the end zone.
And the try is successful. What a run for the Vikings.
What an explosive run. What a way to take it off downfield. That is an incredible explosive run by number 10.
Number 10, Sho Sakela from Osaka, Japan, taking advantage of that play right there.
What a run by that young man. Just a way to take off downfield, getting into open range, using that downhill speed. This is one of the biggest reasons why so many rugby players sometimes come from soccer as two-way sport players. Having that explosive play and being able to take off that fast downfield, it really comes in handy when you have those type of moves there.
Liam Herring, number 15, able to take that corner and set up Sho Selka for that run right there.
Great block by the Vikings. As you can, again, as I said earlier, this is how they take advantage of these games. You think they're going to have it, and now it's an 8-3 ball game after coming into this game as underdogs after a uncharacteristic start to their season, which is still pretty good for most teams when you look at a 4-3 record.
We have number 17 with the conversion right there for the Vikings, and we will see the Beavers kicking off after that successful conversion.
The Oregon State Beavers defense got sleeping there, just allowing the long run from about midfield. Almost 50-plus yard run. That was a very good play as the Beavers will now collect themselves to send the ball back to Washington.
The Beavers need to focus on staying disciplined on that defensive end and not allowing those bodies to pile up.
Absolutely.
Making so that the edges of the field are open. And clearly right there in that instance, those corners of the field were.
As the Vikings will wrap up. Good defense by OSU so far, keeping them in the middle of center on their side of the field.
It is a battle out there right now as we see some mist coming down onto the field.
Yeah.
Tough tackle there from number 6.
The wind is starting to pick up. The rain's coming down pretty lightly. You have to wonder how this artificial turf is going to be when it gets wet and slippery from the rain and the downpour.
Beavers retake possession of the ball and are on the far end of the field.
Oregon State keeping their hands on the ball so far. What a way to keep themselves involved in this game as they are awaiting the pass off now.
Kick to the far end of the field.
Almost picked off by the Viking defender.
Viking kick it out of bounds, letting the Beavers have a line out close to the end of their try zone.
That was a near disaster for the Oregon State Beavers. That was an almost pick for the Western Washington defender. He jumped up there and met the guy right in the middle. That was Dawson Tarrant trying to bring it down, but number 11 was able to go up stride for stride, and that was a near turnover for this Oregon State offense.
Don't believe we have a line out.
I think they'll just be receiving the kick here.
Okay, there's just going to be a start with the throw as the Beavers head towards the try zone. As the rain begins to pick up here at Student Legacy Park.
Weather is definitely going to be a big concern for both teams.
We've already seen some passes fly through the hands of some players, so as the ball gets slicker, we may see some more errant passes or just fumbles for when they're trying to catch.
Absolutely. There could be so many lines for error in this game, fumbles, not being able to bring in open catches. The weather is a massive part of this sport when it comes to playing outside like this, especially in the Pacific Northwest. Very famous for rain, not exactly famous for clear skies. So it's going to be really cool to see how Oregon State can handle this ball placement.
There's another ball right through the hands of Oregon State player.
And right on cue.
And the Vikings will retake possession as a knock-on is called, as the ball passes through an Oregon State player and moves forward.
Expect to see a lot of knock-ons in this game. I mean, again, the weather and the rain that now is coming down really hard. you're going to have to expect to be a huge piece of this team.
We see each team lining up for the scrum as the Vikings will be able to pass that in. And they break from the scrum as the refs are having a word with the players, making sure everything is being done right.
Refs trying to adjust the scrum, trying to make adjustments on the fly here as they will await the ball. 12 minutes and counting, 10-3 ball game favoring Western Washington.
Scrum is turned and the Vikings take possession. Another stoppage of play is called as the Beavers will be able to retake possession and start with a pass. A lot of stoppage in play in these last 5 or so minutes.
Early on, too. You'd usually let the guys play it out and get physical, but they have really been trying to adjust this. I guess the refs are also seeing the effects of the weather, as the rain is seriously going to be a massive issue for this team, as we will now await the penalty kick.
Number 7, Michael Conlon, is taking the kick for the Beavers.
I believe that was a penalty on the Vikings for trying to get too handsy on the kickoff. So you'd have to imagine that this will be a big break for the Beavers to finally get points on the board.
And it is through the uprights, letting the Beavers go up to 6 points, only down 4 early in this matchup.
As the Vikings will now send it off to the Oregon State Beavers. That was a very good break for the Beavers early on. You have to imagine that they can now breathe a little better now that they're not down the hole. As a near fumble again from the rain, this ball is slippery, and it's clearly a problem for Oregon State early on.
11 on the close end of the field taken down, tried to take by the Beavers.
As the Beavers will pass over. That's pretty good defense so far by the Vikings to be able to get the ball already back into their offensive hands.
Now they go back to the far end of the field where they scored their previous try with Sho Selkea. He is taken down, and there is a fight for the ball.
On the outside, this is where they were able to have that score, like you said, taking advantage of it.
There's Sho there with the kick up, and the Beavers will receive.
I don't know if this will be called a knockoff, as that was a drop pass by Dawson Heron. So I don't know if it'll be called that, considering.
Unsure what the refs are deciding. Looks like the Vikings will kick that ball out of bounds so that they will receive a line out closer to the try zone for them. So interesting strategy there.
Very interesting.
Immediately kicking the ball out of bounds so that they will have that line out.
I guess they trust their front man in order to get the ball back into their hands and avoid a costly try here.
Great catch there, drive closer to that line. And that try is successful. They scored that try.
They will give it to them. What a play by the Western Vikings, getting out there and being able to make the try successful. And now this game is getting a little out of hand for these Oregon State Beavers, down a hole early on with 13 minutes in play in the first quarter.
Great use of strategy there for the Vikings. Immediately kicking that ball to that out of bounds line so that they will receive that line out.
That was a very smart move by the Vikings. That is exactly what this coach is trying to preach for them, getting the strategy ready. And as they are warming up the kick, this Beavers team is going to need some serious prep time now that they're down a hole by at least 2 scores. They're going to have to see if they can figure a way to at least start to claw their way out of this one.
Now, the conversion kicks have to be kicked from where the try was successful. So wherever that ball is touched in the try zone, they have to kick from that spot out from that 22-meter line, excuse me.
And with the try up and good, that'll count for the score, as it is a 17-6 ball game here in Corvallis, Oregon, as the Oregon State Beavers are trailing 6-17, as the Vikings, with 2 tries early on and at least a penalty kick on top of it, they have taken the lead head on here, as the Beavers will try to claw their way out of this one.
Beavers looking to regroup here, try to keep possession of that ball, like I said earlier. make sure those passes are clean, no fumbles, no errant passes. And stoppage of play here as the refs will give the possession to the Vikings, I believe.
Kai Lucas was the one that sent that one off. And it will be back in the arms of Oregon State as they assemble for the scrum, putting their biggest men forward. This, again, as I said earlier, is where you really define your big mans up front, that battle in the trenches for the ball.
Oh, yeah, that's right. And having that ball for the scrum allows the player to throw it in more towards their player so that the ball can be kicked so that they regain possession.
Good pass, Sean Crow to Dawson Taryn.
Seems like a ruck is being formed and they're dragging the player on the ground. Seems like some sort of penalty will be called on the Vikings.
I don't know if that was on Purcell. Or excuse me, Purcell.
I believe the Vikings will have a penalty against them with the Beavers being able to kick. Believe you are not allowed to drag the opponents.
I think Oregon State, I think he either got hooked on or I think the Viking was trying to take him straight up. So that is very much illegal and against the rules. But I'd like to point out that Oregon State, if this is good, every single 9 points, if this goes up and good, will be off of penalty kicks alone. They need the help of the refs to get on the scoreboard. That is not exactly the best start to the game.
Like to take advantage of those penalties, but never like to rely on those penalties. You want to see, like I said earlier, possession, being able to get closer to that try line, getting those 5 points instead of 3.
As it's a 17-9 ball game now with 13 and a half minutes, just a little over so far in this first quarter, as the Vikings will set up for the kick. And this Oregon State Beavers, as you so eloquently put it, that very much has to be the game plan. They cannot completely rely on the neon green to help them get into the end zone.
Short kick received by Luke, with the Beavers taking possession, see if they can do something, hold the possession here for a longer period of time.
Good pass out.
Booted long towards the half line, and the refs stop play for a potential injured player.
That was a high kick, and it does look like there was some aggravation there. That was Ersin Kekakwala, number 8.
Looks like the Beavers will retain possession with unsure what the ref will call as he's talking to a Vikings player, talking to number 8, Harry Moore, making sure that he's adhering by the rules here today.
As looks like the refs are starting to adjust the lineup here.
A little bit of stoppage of play here. Early on in this game, we've experienced a lot of referees intervening, making sure we're playing a clean rugby match.
And you always want to see it, especially with that injury early on, that very nasty injury to, I believe that was Carson Lowe of the Vikings, having to leave early because of that nasty blow he took low to the knee. And you're going to have to now rely on the refs hopefully being able to keep this a clean game because of the fact of how rough it's been out here with the weather going against them.
Max Spillman kicking that ball across the half line so that the Beavers will retain possession for the lineout.
Good kick there by the Beavers in order to start the scruff.
There's that same strategy there that the Vikings had on that try where they are deep in their own territory and want to kick it farther across the field so that they can still retain possession. Looks like there's a turnover by the Beavers with the Vikings getting the ball back.
The weather very much being a factor early on here. You hate to see it for the Beavers, considering that they're already playing in a hole.
Not the cleanest start for either team today, but the Vikings are really taking advantage of some of the unforced errors that these Beavers are making.
But I guess in rugby, there's really nothing that's all too clean with how violent of a sport it can be.
Very true. Very true. The scrum is formed, and the Vikings take the ball.
Wide open first. Runs over a man.
Big hit there.
Like a white Derrick Henry.
Ruck was formed. Show getting the ball. Kicked up by number 15, Liam. Beavers catch the ball.
Great recover by Taryn.
Taking their time, getting their set up before throwing that ball. Great tackle there from the
That was
Vikings.
Bailey on the tackle against the Beavers. Spurlock got caught.
Ball kicked around, and it will be with the Beavers as we have a stoppage of play. Beavers will retain possession. A little bit of back and forth right there with possession. It seems like a wet one out there. That ball is just flying everywhere.
They could not get a proper handle on this ball. The Beavers are not being able to keep up with the possession due to how outstanding this can be as they send the ball clean out of bounds, almost taking a few pedestrians' heads off with the way as the Beavers will receive the kick here.
There's that same strategy there with the Beavers kicking it out of bounds to be able to throw it in for that line out. Clearly there is a strategy there for wanting to throw the ball in. Great catch there by number 5 for the Beavers.
Just Kravitz
Big
with
hit
the catch.
there. Beavers retain possession.
It's a
Back
massive
in their own
layout.
territory.
They're getting backed up to their end zone. You can't have that.
Ruck seems to have formed. Beavers still with possession.
They're able to retain it. Fight for the ball now.
Fight for the ball now, and the Vikings seem to have won that with them taking the possession now deep into the Beavers territory.
Vikings hold on to possession. They come out of that with the ball.
Gus Sorensen getting hit.
Vikings attempting, passing over toward the try zone, wide open for anyone as it will be recovered by the Beavers.
Recovered by the Beavers in their own try zone.
That was a very, very nice save, man. That was a close one. That was Luke Kravitz coming up with the big play there, number 5 with the Guardian cap on. What a grand play.
Believe the Vikings will still have possession as they kick the ball out of bounds so that they can throw that line out very close to the try zone on this close end of the field.
The strategy of setting up the line out by kicking it out of bounds seems to be the Vikings' best attack here. They just work the Beavers into their end zone, have them back up against the wall, and then just out-muscle them for the score.
Beavers not even competing on that line out right there.
Good pass over from Moore to Ashman for the Vikings.
Ball seems to have gone through with the Vikings being right on that line. Let's see if the Beavers can stop them close to their own goal line. There's a fight at the line. Beavers seem to have won as Vikings are still not in the end zone yet. That is a tough push and shove there.
Scruff forming. They are fighting for every yard they can get. Pass out to number 10.
Vikings spread it out as 15 is dragged down.
It's Herring.
A little bit of slow pace there as 6 tries for the end zone.
They're trying
Still not there.
They're trying to throw everything out they can have against the Beavers. They have them exactly where they want them in the try.
Big push there from the Beavers. Still holding that line tough.
They're fighting for the ball. They inch forward.
It is a battle in there.
Vikings have possession right now. The Beavers are putting everyone they can to keep them out of the end zone as they power forward.
And they will successfully get that try as that was a powerful fight for those 5 points.
This game is now very much in the favor of the Vikings. What a way to respond coming into this on the road in horrible weather. Underdogs taking the 22-9 lead. That is ugly. I believe that was Ashoff who runs into the end zone, number 6 for the score.
Great battle there for the Vikings. Just showing their physicality, showing their toughness. showing that they're not giving up when they're that close to the end zone.
Aiden Ashoff has a very good bulky build, so being able to get the ball in his hands at the try-zone attempt, just shoving him in there for the score, it's like a fullback dive. That is a very good play by this Vikings offense as we await the extra point.
The conversion is through the uprights, making it a 24-29 game.
This is becoming just as ugly as the weather for the Oregon State Beavers. They are in a rough situation now. It's not looking good. I know there's still a ton of ball to still be played, but we've seen where these type of games can get out of hand. After all, we've seen the exact same thing happen to the Beavers last week against Idaho. They were able to put the Broncos in the exact situation that they currently are in. So you have to wonder how they're going to be able to get themselves out of now being down already long with 17:03 so far played in this first quarter.
Obviously, Coach Johnson was not hoping for this start as the Beavers kick it off to the Vikings.
As the rain is now coming down in full strength, the wind is blowing to the left side of the field. You have to imagine the weather's going to get pretty ugly here early on.
Booted up by the Vikings out of bounds, having them throw the ball in for the line out.
A little bit of adjustment by the refs there.
The big prop players are the ones holding up the player that receives the line out.
Beavers receive the kick too.
As the refs call for the back line of the Vikings to take a step back. Beavers to throw in the line out. As number 4 goes up in the air, Quincy Spurlock catches the ball. It is passed through the end of the field. Number 13 breaks a tackle.
What a run!
Waiting for some edge rushers.
That was Tristan Garson.
Taken down towards the try line.
Big dude, little body, but being able to completely bulldoze everybody.
Let's see if this can add some momentum for the Beavers here. Physicality happening
as they fight for extra yards. Great physical play there by the Beavers. Garson with the awesome run, like a bowling ball rumbling downfield with the ball in his possession. A little extra push there from Spurlock, but not enough as the refs will blow it.
Ref stop and play here. Is that a yellow card for the Vikings? Is that number 19, I believe, running off the field?
And if number 19, I believe that was Johnson, who came in on the sub-in for the injured starter for the Vikings, as this will be
a Beavers ball. Let's see if they can take advantage of this field position and get some points on the board. That isn't a penalty.
They're rumbling forward. Shirts getting tugged here.
Those Vikings are pushing them back, and they receive possession, get the turnover. What a chain of events there for the Beavers.
The Beavers were knocking on the door. They were finally having some good momentum going their way toward the opposite end zone, and the Vikings just take it away. That is a complete momentum shift and an absolute mental backbreaker.
That is some great defense from the Vikings. They kick it to the end, to the halfway point, and the Beavers will retain possession as they are on the close sideline.
Good slip by Garson. Number 11 for the Vikings, Ashman, was not able to bring him down. Too slippery. You'd also have to imagine how the weather will affect tackling. Since they're not wearing pads, they're not wearing gear. This is completely just shirts and shorts. Very slippery fabric, being able to just completely fly off them with the rain now very much pouring down.
Another stoppage of play here by the ref, talking to number 8 for the Vikings, making sure that they're adhering to the rules of the ref. The Beavers will retain possession as they are on the close end of the field.
And you're starting to be able to see your breath out here. It's getting pretty chilly as the rain is coming down on full force. 9:24 game with 18 and a half minutes, a little over so far this first quarter, as the Beavers have so far had to rely completely on penalty kicks in this 9:24 score. The Vikings 3 tries and a penalty kick.
And that strategy of kicking that ball out of bounds closer to the try line will be used by the Beavers.
Good way to adapt to your enemy's game plan there in order to at least attempt to get points on the board, as you're already in a hole early on here.
They will be able to throw the line out in, hoping to, again, take advantage of their field position, see if they can get a try here, unlike last time. Another stoppage of play. It seems like maybe a forward pass was called on the Beavers, and that's another turnover in enemy territory. You just can't have those turnovers deep, close to your own try line.
You can't. That really is a backbreaker. This is a very, very mentally depleting turnover there for the Beavers. You're already so close. You can taste the end zone, but they are just utterly pushed back every time by this Vikings defense. They're not trying to give up any points here that aren't immediately given off of penalties.
Now a scrum is going to be formed with the Vikings being able to throw on this close field, and a Vikings kick it out of bounds. Seems like an errant kick.
I think it was deflected by one of the Beavers.
Seems to be that the Vikings will be able to throw it in. Excuse me, the Beavers will be able to throw it in for the line out, taking advantage of that turnover right there.
Ben Nord sending it back to his team.
Ben Nord, the hooker for the Beavers.
Ooh, almost brought in there by Quincy Spurlock for the Beavers.
Ball seems to be bouncing around there, unsure of possession as the Vikings have it now, and it is kicked out of bounds again towards the middle of the field.
As that ball is out by a country mile, as the Vikings attempted, I think, to at least get it out of the scrum in order to attempt to break away from just an intense pile again, as now they will kick it back. This is Nord again, sending it to the Beavers, as this time they will receive the kick.
Strong catch there.
But will be pushed out of bounds. Man, this Vikings defense is clamping this Oregon State offensive attack.
That physicality and just the wall they are putting up in their territory is just really giving the Beavers a hard time.
They cannot break free. They are not being allowed. This Vikings team is going to make them earn every single yard, and more importantly, every single point.
The Vikings go to throw in the line out.
As this is number 3, I believe, Jelly, who will throw it back in.
And it's kicked out again towards the closer end of the field. As we see the players run towards their sidelines. As I believe a timeout has been called, Nick?
I think so. I think it's going to be a technicality timeout for both sides. I think this is on the Beavers, though, as the refs indicated here, in order to huddle up.
Good start for the Vikings here. Let's see if the Beavers can really take advantage of this timeout, regroup, have Coach Johnson, give them some words of encouragement, really tell them, we're not out of it yet.
Absolutely. 24-9 ball game, 18:57 so far in this first half. Western Washington up by at least 3 scores. Beavers have only been able to capitalize on what the refs are going to give them. That's not a winning football mentality. So you have to imagine that they're going to be able to regroup here during this timeout and come together and make a plan. And you'd hope that Coach Johnson is able to get it across to them early on that they need to make it, as you could see him visibly frustrated with the team. You can only imagine how mad he could be right now, considering that if it wasn't for the refs being more kind and lenient to this home squad, they could be shut out in this first half.
That's right, Nick. And head coach Juwan Johnson and all of his coaching staff are former Oregon State rugby players for this team. So, he's a lot of passion in this game. He has a lot of lot of fight for these players, and he loves his team. He wants them to be successful. So him being hard on them, him being passionate about this game can maybe get them over that hump of scoring today.
It's always about the alum coming back and being able to make a play, and or at least not make a play, but being able to incorporate that play. And you'd have to imagine that whenever they're able to break this huddle and get back into formation, that they'll be able to make a strong move and hopefully switch the tides of this game, because it's clearly not working so far, whatever they have going. So you'd have to imagine that Oregon State will be able to turn this around once they're able to break this huddle.
And the Vikings here really with a strong start, as their defensive line has been just really solid, getting lots of turnovers, taking advantage of those possessions. Just a great start for the Vikings, what they want to see after a hard loss last week.
Yeah, it's a really ugly loss last week, considering that they were coming off of being at home and being able to make that play. So I cannot imagine that they're going to come into this game just laying down. You know, we said that this is a historically grand team, a dynasty, if you will, over the last decade, 6 championships in 10 years. That's definitely something to write home about. So they're not going to go down laying flat for this game. They're going to come out and try to make something happen. So you'd have to imagine that the Beavers are going to start to realize that soon, that, hey, we really did underestimate this Vikings team. Well, this Vikings team did not come into this game thinking that this was going to be easy. They wanted to make this Beavers team fight for every yard, fight for every point, and they're not going to go down lying down.
And you know that 6 championships in the last 10 years does not leave the program. You know, I mean, that dynasty has been built, and so that culture of winning and culture of fighting really sticks with the Vikings. And you can see it here early that, you know, they're physical, they're gritty, they're gonna make the right play at the right time in order to be successful.
Yeah, they're a very physical team, and that's what they love to do, is be able to be physical and put their big guys up front in order to make a play. As we saw, we had 2 tries go in that were simply from just the tush push, shoving them in, gaining together, making that triangle formation in order to shove the ball carrier into the end zone for points. And you would hope that the tries moving forward will be able to keep this away, as the Oregon State Beavers continue to rally here, and hopefully we'll be able to break the huddle with much more energy for this one, as we will be awaiting the Beavers as they soon snap their huddle shortly after this quick break here on KBVR TV. Welcome back to KBVR TV. I'm your host, Nicholas Munoz, joined here by my co-host, Brady Elliott, as we have a wet and wild one here in Corvallis, Oregon. The weather is relentless so far in a 24-9 ball game as the Western Washington Vikings lead the Oregon State Beavers 24-9. It's been a really rough back and forth as the Vikings knocked the ball free. Rumbling downfield, they were able to cover, forming the scrum. Beavers start to spread out here.
Vikings taking their time, setting the ball up.
Vikings will receive the pass. Fullback dive forward almost as they'll pass over to the left half.
What a lift up tackle by the Beavers.
Big hit by the Vikings there to collide with the Oregon State Beavers defender. Of course, I'd like to apologize at home for the technical difficulties on the clock. It's still a 40-minute second half as the Beavers are awaiting the call from the refs.
The refs seem to be talking to each team, trying to decide what the call is. Seems like he tends to talk to number 8 for the Vikings.
Must be one of their captains.
Very true.
I think that's more as the Vikings discuss their next game plan. Good attempt so far by the Beavers to keep the Vikings on their to start this second half. But of course, in the first half, already trailing down by at least 3 scores, it has been a rough run for this Beavers team so far. And you'd have to imagine that the only way they're able to move forward is if they are going to be able to get a hand on this offense. They have not been able to find their way to the end zone. They have not been able to rack up tries. They have been only relying on what the Neon Green have been able to give them from the referee crew. 3 penalty kicks for their 9 lone points.
Seems like we are taking time for a injured Beaver player on the far end of the field. Don't like to see injuries for the Beavers.
Yeah, that is never a good sign. So we'll go for a quick timeout here for the injury report. This is KBVR TV. Stay tuned as we have a wet one here. 24-9, Western Washington leading OSU.
Welcome back to Student Legacy Park as we had a injured Beaver step off the field under his own power.
Yeah, so it's good to see him be able to get back involved. Returning to here on KBVR TV, Oregon State trailing 9-24 to the Western Washington Vikings as they will tip off as we will await the line here. Oregon State adjusting their men. The Vikings will be sending it back in the field of play as that will be Gals for the Vikings. Awaiting the pass off here. Sideline judge bearing as we will see the kick. Return to the Vikings, pass back over the middle. Steamrolls forward and will be brought down by a herd of Beavers.
Big run there by Ferguson Moore, number 5 for the Vikings.
Very good run there. They'll pass back off, and he will miss wide open. I think that was the connection from Ashman to Funk, but it was not there, right through the hands of Funk on the outside.
Pass seemed to be a little bit high for the Vikings, throwing it out of bounds with the Beavers throwing it in for the line out, taking advantage of that somewhat turnover.
As we wait the line out, the Beavers will receive the ball, fighting for it at the bottom of the pile. The Beavers will recover, but they'll be moved outside from the try-zone.
Strong run there from number 8 for the Beavers.
Beavers fighting for the ball. They'll send it high and dry as it goes up and will land near the broadcast booth.
Almost very close to hitting our booth here on this short end of the field.
Lean dry out of bounds as we will wait the line. That was a high kick there from the Vikings to send it out of bounds. They've been completely relying that all game long as they will send it back in the field of play. Pass over the middle, wide open. Another strong run by the Vikings, having to get gang tackled by OSU.
Quick pace here for the Vikings.
They're clearly trying to throw the Beavers off bounds. Short kick.
Show Selkea kicking it up towards the try zone.
Near the try zone now as the Beavers will recover. And I think this is Oregon State now who has possession, and they do. As we await the Vikings, who will be receiving the play here.
Seems like the refs are discussing.
As
unsure what the call will be.
Don't know. I believe it will go toward the Vikings as the refs indicate. Oregon State looking to break the scrum here as they will lock for the ball.
Would like to see Oregon State maybe try to get a turnover here in that scrum.
Absolutely, trying to hopefully get the ball back in their hands as they are waiting formation and sub-ins. Little bit of miscommunication here for the Vikings on their sideline, trying to bring in players they do not need. Don't want to get a penalty there for too many odd men on the field.
The rain is still coming down very, very hard here.
Yeah, no, this is a very ugly game so far. The weather is not kind in the slightest to the Vikings or the Beavers here. Just another lovely day in Corvallis, Oregon, as the Vikings will recover the pass outside from the scrum.
Quick takedown by the Beavers after that scrum win
Good
for
pass,
the Vikings.
Good passing play there, as you can only imagine, as the Vikings will try to move forward. Ball currently in Washington's hand, fighting for an extra few yards.
See some pushing and shoving out there from the players.
Vikings attempting, sending the ball high. This will go into the hands of one of the Vikings defenders. Pass back out to the middle. Pass back out to the center. He'll send it high over the middle. OSU drops it. Won't be called a knockout, and it will. Brutal fumbled pass there by Tristan Garson. Attempted to go for the catch, but it goes right through his arms, and the weather still showing its effect on the rugby ball as they are not able to make a clean catch. It goes slipping out of their hands.
That's where we can see that the weather truly playing a factor in somewhat of a easy catch for the Beavers, turning into a knock-on and a turnover for the Vikings, putting it into Beaver territory close to that try zone.
Absolutely. You cannot imagine the fact of that this weather is having such a brutal outcome on this game, as they will kick it out of bounds and wait for the line to form. And the weather being so relentless so far, it is making this environment so harsh than it already is. It's freezing, the downpour is coming, and now the turf and the ball are becoming too slippery to be able to keep a clean grasp on, as we will await the pass inbounds. Motion. The
Aired
Beavers will
pass.
take it. Fighting for yards. Being pushed out of the try zone again. Pass back. Sending it far and high, but it will go into the arms. Great catch there by the Vikings to go low and make it. Few men will be missed. He'll run for more yards.
Great strong run there by number 15 for the Vikings.
Sends the ball back, passes back again. That's more to more, as Moore will fight for more yards. Get wrapped up in a huddle.
Seems that there's a stoppage of play here by the ref.
Going to wait to see what the call is, as Oregon State attempted to send the ball back into the territory of the Vikings, but the short kick did not go high enough, as we will await Washington's call. Forming the scrum here.
Like I said earlier, maybe we could see Oregon State get a turnover here in the scrum. Oh, they are throwing the ball into the scrum. So let's see if they can take advantage of that turnover by the Vikings and try to flip field position right now.
Absolutely. Seeing if they can get the ball back, as they will fight for yards. The ball will go out, almost recovered by the Beavers, but it will get picked up by Washington. He'll be pushed forward by his team. OSU battling. They'll toss it back out. Ball in the possession of the Vikings now. They'll continue to throw to the sideline, as what a strong stiff arm there. Herring trying to fight for more yards. Can't get any. He'll be brought down by an extra sea of white and orange. They'll pass back out. Running for yard. Deflection off to 10. Picked up by 5. Big pile starting to form from the ruck, as we will have whistles.
A whistle seems to have been blown as the ref goes to the far end of the field.
As we have an injury. Ooh, nasty hit there for one of the Beavers, as we will take this quick injury timeout. Hopefully he'll be able to get addressed quickly by the medical staff. It's a 24-9 ball game here in the ILC fields, with Oregon State trailing, hopefully being able to make a second half comeback. You're listening to KBVR TV. (24-9) ball game here, as the Rugby men's club for Oregon State attempt to break the scrum here, as the Western Washington Vikings lead by 3 scores, 24-9. Ball will be recovered by the Vikings. Pitch out to their defender, who's able to run forward. Ford will pass back to the backfield. Makes a nice cut, but will get wrapped up by the Beavers. That was number 10 for the Vikings. I believe that was Ashman. Pass back out. Loses possession of the ball. Throw back out to the outside. Gets wrapped up by the Beavers. Attempting to fight for more yards. Shovel pass back out to the backfield. Vikings will send it high. And it will go through the arms of Oregon State. They're able to recover, though. It will not be knocked. Forming the ruck, as whistles will be blown, and the Oregon State Beavers will either be assisted or aided by the refs.
A lot of back and forth to either side of the field here for the Vikings. Like to see that ball movement, like to see especially Cho Selkea for the Vikings really making plays in open space and, taking advantage of his speed.
So Kea with the 50-plus yard run for the try in the first half that really opened up this game when the skies were much clearer. The downpour and rain is heavy so far. It's caused a lot of turnovers and easy drop passes. That ball is becoming far too hard to control as we await the line to receive, and Oregon State will take it. OSU will pass back to their backfield over the middle. Another pass. It'll be picked off. No, back into the arms.
Big hit there by number 14 for the Vikings.
Great defense so far by by Western Washington in order to make this hard-fought game a little tough. Beavers
Loose ball there.
are able to recover, though. Move forward. Vikings on top. Beavers shovel pass out. Trying to make a man miss. Will get wrapped up quickly, though. The Vikings all over. The ball is out. It will be recovered by OSU as they continue to fall forward, but there will be a whistle blown. The refs.
Seems like a knock-on has been called for the refs as the ball was dropped and moved forward and then recovered by the Beavers. So a knock-on is called, and there will be a scrum.
That was not a good play by the Beavers to drop it that easily again. This weather is relentless, and it's causing many mental errors to form for this Beavers team, as we will have an adjustment by the refs.
Doesn't seem to like how the scrum was initiated. Wants to restart that.
With the scrum forming, they will fight for the ball recovered by the Vikings.
Can hear the screams and the grunts of those players in that scrum.
Crowd very pleased with that outcome. A lot of Vikings showing up in space to support their team. Oregon State will take the pass. They'll run forward, takes a huge hit. My goodness, that was Ben Nord taking the full brunt. He's slow to get up as the pile will be broken and whistles will be blown. Vikings in possession of the ball after all of that motion. As we have a scuff, a little bit of a scuffle.
Some words being exchanged between players.
Tempers are starting to fly as people will be subbed in here for the Vikings. Oregon State. Tempers, of course, flying here considering that they're down in this nasty weather 9:24 ball game. You have to imagine they're going to get pretty frustrated considering how this has turned out for them. As we await the ball, Vikings making their calls. Ball in play on OSU side. It will be recovered by the Beavers. They'll pass out, and it's dropped right into the arms, but they'll be able to still hold on to possession as they break free, but it will get wrapped up and drop the ball. Vikings will recover.
Good recovery there from the Beavers, besides the initial turnover that gives the Vikings the ball back.
Washington will start to run off the edge, but will get wrapped up. Low tackle there by the Beavers, as Washington will have another whistle blown on them. And is this either for an injured player or, and it will be, as we have a few down, this will be for an Oregon State Beaver who's showing massive aggravation there in his shoulder. It was a nasty low hit he took there, as the medical staff will address this. And we will be back after this short break here on KBVR TV. It's a 24-9 ball game. Your Oregon State Beavers leading the Western Washington Vikings. Oregon State still trails the Western Washington Vikings 9-24. Welcome back to KBVR TV. I'm your host, Nicholas Munoz, joined here by my co-host, Brady Elliott, as we have a very close game. Believe it or not, there's still at least 20-plus minutes left in this half for the Beavers to possibly pull off the comeback. They would need at least 3 tries to at least take the lead by a point, as we will see the scrum be broken up. Washington will receive the ball. Shovel pass back, trying to find an open man. He'll find one on the outside, as that is Ashman, who tries to cut forward but will get wrapped up by the Beavers. Ball rolls free on the field now of play, and it will be recovered by the Beavers, but whistles will be blown by the refs to stop the play.
Great run there by Eli Ashman, bringing that ball deep into the territory. Unlucky turnover there for the Vikings, giving the Beavers the ball back.
Some great running by Ashman we've seen today. He's so fast and nimble. We've seen him absolutely take off as they form the scrum here again in order to receive the ball, as we will await as Oregon State will send it into the pile. And the ball is under and away, trying to find what will come out. It will go through the back half, and it will be picked up by Oregon. The Beavers will do a high, dry kick out of bounds, and it will have the lines form as we await to see it be passed back into the field of play. Good play there by the Beavers. Their backs are currently up against their own end zone. You might as well try to at least see if you can make it even.
Need to see a tough stand for the Beavers here, not letting the Vikings score a point here, trying to flip the field.
As the Vikings will receive the pass. Washington shovels back out, tipped ball on the sideline, makes a man miss, makes several men miss afterwards, rumbling forward, not enough to get into the try, but almost pushing forward. Good stand by the Beavers to hold unless they call it.
Looks like a successful try there for the Vikings.
And I believe they do. If this stands on the review by the refs, this will be a try. And I think it is. The Western Washington Vikings with the successful score, as you have players signaling for their timeout if this is good.
Really like to see that drive in those legs, that physicality there deep in the end zone.
Exactly. You thought the Beavers would be able to make the stand and stop them, keep them out of the end zone, but they were able to barrel in and get the successful try. And now they wait for the extra point as the weather continues to pour on, the rain not showing any signs of letting up, as the Western Washington Vikings will send this one up and away.
Eli Ashman and Liam Herring really standing out in that play for the Vikings, taking advantage of that physicality.
Real strong run by Ashman there to just run over Beaver defenders. You thought they had the initial stand, but on the second attempt, he was able to lean that shoulder forward and find his way for 6, as the extra point is up and good, and the try will have a full set of points thrown up on the board as the Oregon State Beavers take the lead, and the Oregon State Beavers further get put down from the lead, now in a massive hole, 9-32, that with the waning minutes of this second half coming to an end, or at least coming closer to an end, you'd have to imagine they have to start pulling out all the works here. Kickoff is up and high. It'll be recovered by the Vikings, forming the ruck, trying to get the ball out, and they will. They'll send it high into the air on the side, and it'll be out of bounds. Refs will blow it dead as the Beavers will receive this kick.
The Vikings all throughout today have clearly won the possession game, have clearly not had as many turnovers as the Beavers, taking advantage of those turnovers for the Beavers and just really standing out today in their physicality and their just overall strategy today.
The turnover problems have been a massive issue for Oregon State. They have seen several times where they have knocks, and they've seen several times where they've dropped wide open passes. It's really been a massive torrential issue for Oregon State as they will receive and fail. The line will go toward the favor of the Vikings as more whistles are blown. Stoppage on the play yet again, but no, they'll let it go this time. Oregon trying to push forward for the try. They can't. The Vikings doing everything they can, and with an extra shove from the big man, that is going to hold. Oregon will fight for a few more yards. Struggling to get open into the end zone.
Seems like
As
there's a
the
battle.
Yeah, I think the Vikings are on top of this one. Oregon is desperately trying to find their way into the attempt for the try here. They're finally pinning the Vikings back up against their scoring zone. Usually it's been them all night long, as the Vikings will just tip this ball out of bounds, not risking it. This has been the story of the game for the Vikings, is pinning the Beavers deep in their own territory, having them have to play up against their wall, or excuse me, with their backs up against their own wall. But now the Vikings are able to hopefully move them back into the open field as we await for the ball on the line, and the Beavers will haul it in.
Would like to see the Beavers take advantage of this field position, as they have not had many attempts in their opponent's territory. Let's see if they can, get a try here, get some points on the board, recover from this deficit, and just try to move forward.
Absolutely. Spielman on the recovery. He'll pass it back out to Scott. Scott rumbles forward, has the ball for a moment, and will shovel it back under to his opponent, but will be blocked. Ooh, big hit there. Ball will be kicked back into open field. It will roll over into Beaver territory. It'll be recovered by Scott, who tries to make a miss, runs forward, pile up in front of the booth. They'll shovel it back out to Spielman, who will run a few people over. Ball back out into the field. Shovel pass into the backfield, as one of the forwards will run forward but lose control of the ball as the refs blow this play dead. More tempers flying as the Vikings and Beavers showing a little bit of confusion there from the refs, letting some tempers fly early there.
Seems like some words were exchanged between the Vikings and the Beavers,
For sure.
allowing the ball to be moved a little farther up towards their try zone. The ref letting the Beavers move it up.
Refs letting the players play there, as a guy was dragged on the attempt, but they were going to let it go with no penalty. Beavers trying to attempt to move the ball a little forward. Shovel pass over the middle, which will be shoved a little further from extra Beaver defenders coming up. They'll pass it back over, trying to find the ball here. It'll be back into a Beaver's arms, as the refs will blow more whistles as they will assess and adjust the ball here.
Don't know what the call is here for the refs, as he is going to converse with the sideline judge. Seems like the Beavers have been able to retain possession for, as long as they have this entire game, trying to limit those turnovers, really. And it seems like here they have a pretty good opportunity to try to score this try.
Absolutely. This is a Beavers team that so far through the night, through this afternoon, has had struggle trying to find their way on the scoreboard without relying on the refs. And here, if it goes toward their favoring, it'll be another, and it is a yellow card being brandished toward the Vikings, as the Beavers will trot on to attempt a penalty kick. This is the fourth penalty kick of the game, and if it is up and good, the Beavers' entire points so far scored tonight have been completely from the refs, gifting it to them with a package and a bow on top.
Seems like that was number 1, Caius Larson, with the yellow card. Unsure if that results in a penalty kick or if that results in a Beaver possession starting closer to that try zone.
They show formation for the penalty kick, as the refs will blow it back, and it will not. It'll be simply closer formation here. They will run forward with the ball. Oregon State holds on to possession, trying to find a man for the middle. They get closer to the end zone for the try attempt. They'll pass back out to the left on the edge, but he'll get wrapped up quickly on the sideline by Funk of Washington. Pass back out to the middle, attempting to find an open lane, but won't. Ball is bobbling throughout hands. Forwards trying to make a man miss there, but can't. Wrapped up low by the Vikings.
Quite the battle here for the Beavers, trying to find some sort of opening, some sort of space.
Beavers making a good attempt there, pushing forward. They'll shovel the pass back out. Refs will blow the call, allowing adjustments. You see the Beavers visibly frustrated with each other on the play as the Beavers will wait to send this one away. Oregon State currently down 9-31 in this second half. Of course, we're already down 9-24 in the first. They gave up a try early on here, trying to see if they can find some points on the board. They'll shovel out to the edge, but there are Vikings immediately meeting there, loses control of the ball. That was Bai who let it go, as the Vikings will hold on to possession there and keep them out of their end zone. No try there.
Ball seemed to be fumbled by the Beavers, resulting in a knock-on, giving the possession back to the Vikings.
This has been the story for them as well. The fact of how much this weather has affected. The rain has let up just barely. There's still a light drizzle coming down, but it's not as relentless as it once was. The biggest issue has been that ball control, and now they show it here again, being yet another consistent issue, as we will form the scrum. Refs awaiting to make adjustments, as I believe it's Pritchard who will send it in when they will allow.
As the game goes on, we can see the endurance of both of these teams, and it's a cold one out here. It's a wet one, as we said, and so really testing the endurance and the strength of each player on these teams.
Looking for the ball here at the bottom of the pile. Vikings come up with it.
Stoppage of play here, though, as the ref looks to the sideline.
As they will regroup here. And Oregon State will regain their formation. And they put their big men at the front, trying to find a way in, as Oregon State will fail to recover. The Vikings have it, runs right over a man, but isn't able to get much farther afterwards. Oregon State quickly recovering, dragging one of their own players. No, it was one of the Vikings. Trying to look for the ball. Out to the Vikings, who send it high over the middle. Kick is up and out of bounds.
Beavers looking to try to go quick here. Refs not letting that happen, letting both teams recover with this flippage of the field.
Yeah, that was a great kick there to send the ball and flip it toward their opponent's side. And that is exactly what you want to see from the Vikings. They're trying their best to keep the Oregon State Beavers out of bounds, as they will set up the line here. Both coaches on the side avidly showing their frustrations. They clearly wanted to have a high-scoring game for both sides, especially for Coach Johnson, who wants to at least hopefully hit double digits by the end of this game. Stuck at 9 points here, as the Vikings will high shovel it back to their backfield. Stiff arm, trying to find a man, won't. Will continue to pile forward. Trying to find the ball here. Shovel out to the right side, attempts to run forward, and will get wrapped up by the Oregon State Beavers defense. Another high kick. This one stays in bounds. Oregon State is not able to grab onto it, and they are deep pinned into their own territory. What a stupendous kick there by Funk to pin the Oregon State Beavers deep in their own territory off of the attempt.
Like to see Oregon State be able to handle that kick, not let that ball bounce away from them, not let that ball go through their hands and out of bounds, giving the Vikings the possession deep into their territory by their try zone, completely flipping the field.
That is a great flip of the field. You'd have to imagine that Oregon State now is going to have a ton, and I mean a ton of pressure on them to make sure they don't make this a blowout game. Last week, they were on the leading end of a blowout. This week, they are on the receiving end. Here's to hoping they can keep this one still semi-respectable, down 9-31. The ball will be free, open. Who will get there first? As the Vikings will fall on it as it rolls out of bounds. Good run there by the Vikings defense.
Looks like a try was successful
As
from that kick.
They will call it on the score. He was able to recover it in bounds and not slide out of bounds with the ball, so it will count as the try. Throw points up on the board there as we will await the extra point attempt with an injured Viking on the field currently. We'll await this extra field in a second. We'll be back shortly here on KBVR TV. Welcome back to KBVR TV. It's a 36-9 ball game here with Western Washington leading the hosting Oregon State Beavers. The missed extra point does not add on the extra 2, and it'll remain the 36-9 game as the Beavers will await to send the ball back to the Vikings. Their injured player was able to get up via a piggyback onto the sideline. However, he is showing on the sideline that he can still stretch his legs so far. A lot of injuries this game, and you have to imagine that's due to the field condition and the weather being so ugly, as the Beavers will send this up. They will be fielded by the Vikings, who will lower the shoulder and move slightly forward. Ball comes out, pass back, and the Vikings will send it high and over into Beaver territory. They'll field the catch and not drop this one. Nice fake move there, and he'll get wrapped. I think that was a clothesline by the Vikings defender to keep the Beaver right in front of him. I think that was Sean Crow on the run, and it was. They'll pass the ball out now. It'll be recovered back to the Beavers. They'll send it out, hit a wall of Vikings, try to fight for extra yards, can't get anything going. They'll have to send it back to enforcement, and it's tipped off the hands of the OSU forward. OSU trying to get some form of momentum going here late in this game, in this 9:38 game, as they will send the ball away from the kick into the arms of the defender, and they have not had any issue fielding these plays at all, as they will receive the kick high, keep it in bounds.
Seemed like the player kicked it up to himself,
He
got
did.
under the ball.
Very nice play there,
great
heads up play. It'll be out to the edge as Ashman will pass out to Herney as he is kicked out of bounds.
Seemed to have lost the ball out of bounds.
That could have been a rough run there for the Beavers, giving up yet immediately another try run. If it wasn't for, I believe, Bai coming down from that back spot and being able to keep him out, this could have been a very rough turn of events, putting them in a hole that they for sure could not come out of. as Oregon State, who's already trailing by a bunch, 9:38 here, we would have to imagine that they are going to have to make some form of adjustment soon, or sooner rather than later, in order to make this game more salvageable. Scrum forms. The ball is in, and it'll be out to Oregon State.
Refs seem to stop the scrum yet again,
Yes.
trying to make sure these players are not getting chippy, not letting the emotions get to them.
We've seen several players already exchange choice words. We could only imagine what they're saying, as the ball will be into the scrum now. It'll go leaning toward Oregon State's side, and they will recover. Beavers will pitch it out to their backfield. Oregon State trying to find a man, but it will go into the arms of a Viking. Ruck forming here. They're able to get the ball out from the bottom of the pile, but it will be dropped by an OSU man yet again and fumbled again through the arms of two Beavers. That is not, and that is just a continuation of today's game. Constant fumbling, constant easy drops. That ball has not wanted to go into the arms of the Oregon State players.
It's going to be another knock-on for the Beavers. It's going to be about maybe their 5th or 6th of the day, just not something you see in winning rugby.
Absolutely. This is not something that you would very much want to see at all, at any time for that matter, but especially from a team that's undefeated heading into this game. Back at home, you have the momentum off the blowout, and so far they are now on that receiving end of a blowout, as the scrum will be broken by the refs, trying to adjust here. Coming down again. Back into formation, awaiting the ball. It's in. As we will see where it will fall out. It's on the Viking side. And Washington will come up with it. Washington attempting to find a lane. They'll send it out from the rook. They'll power forward. Only a few yards on that play, though. They'll regroup again, attempting to just push their way into the end zone for the try. Oregon State doing everything in their power to stop them. Nothing is given, though, by this Oregon State backfield. Their defense is letting up big time.
Lots of physicality right there. This is late in the game, hoping to see that both these teams are still giving it their all, still out there, still fighting, especially those Beavers just not giving up, trying to not let the Vikings get in that try zone.
Absolutely. They are trying everything they can to keep them out. They do not want this game to get completely out of hand. Good breakup there by the Beavers defender as they were able to get into the hands of one of their forwards, who's wrapped up quickly by a Viking. We have a Viking who was slow to get up, though, on the back half. Breaking up the play with the refs. OSU attempting to make something happen. Wide open. More wrist whistles fly as we have several Beavers slow to get up here. One is able to get up on his under his own power, whilst number 9 still catches his breath. That's Sean Crow. A lot of players flying there, as we will see sub-ins come in for both teams.
Throughout this game, we have just seen a little bit of sloppy passes, sloppy rugby, and just obviously the weather has something to do with it.
Absolutely,
but
the
you don't
weather
like
has
to
a huge
see
factor.
You don't like to see these Beavers, making those mistakes and making those simple mistakes that are leading them to being in the deficit that they are.
It's
right
the
now.
mental errors, it's the mental
Definitely.
backbreakers that you never want to see. It's always a pain to have to deal with that, as the Beavers will recollect themselves and walk to the sideline. This is number 3 for them. This is Kai Lucas, who was able to walk up under his own power. A little bit of a scary hit there, but it looks like his day is over as well. And we have seen several Beavers and Vikings go down with some nasty injuries, as both huddles will now break. We wait to see the kickoff. 38-9 with a few left to go here in this second half. Oregon State trailing big time, as the visiting Vikings have come in and done everything in their power to make this game be favored toward them. The ball will be up and out of bounds on the right side of the field in Viking territory. as Oregon State will get into line formation with the Vikings.
Can hear some players still yelling out energy, trying to. We're late in this game, but that does not mean the game is over. And like with that score, that still does not mean this game is over. And
Absolutely.
still just fighting every minute for every yard.
As the Vikings, with a very good tip, will pass it out to their backfield. They'll continue to shovel it to the right side. And in wide open range, they'll shovel it out even more with a ton of speed and room in front of him. The Viking will power forward and pass back. Number 24 out to 22. He'll pass it to 12, over to 10, and then back over one more time to another Viking. He'll send it high and landing toward their end zone. Crazy events there as the Vikings continue to just shovel past the ball onto the right side of the field, trying to get everything going so they can somehow flip the field, but they are unsuccessful. Beavers will tap. Runs into a wall quickly, though. Gets stood up almost.
Tough hit there.
Beavers shovel pass out. Hits another wall, and this time he gets pushed backwards. The Vikings not giving any room for this Beavers team to have success. Beavers will shovel out again. Hits another wall, and this will get backpedaled again.
2 hits in a row. Just the driving of those legs from the Vikings players. Just
Back
really
to back.
pushing back.
Incredible stands by the Vikings. A high kick by the Beavers back into Vikings territory. The Vikings will now send it back into Beavers territory. It's fielded by number 6, Jordan Scott. Scott will send it back into Washington territory, and it'll be caught. Oh, huge hit. That was a nasty shot that Dakota Persol took from the Vikings, but he was able to field it. What it feels like would be the first catch of the game that was not dropped. A bobbled pass by the Beavers as we have a Viking holding his head. He's able to get up under his own power. And that was a nasty lower hit earlier to number 12 for the Vikings, Pritchard.
Great play there from number 15, Dawson Taryn, making that play, catching that ball, but taking that really big hit.
That was a
from the
massive
Vikings.
hit. Give him credit, man. He really took it like a champ. Seriously thought he would have taken a nasty injury there, as they will form the scrum once again and await the ball. Vikings will send it in. Scrum will be broken up, and the Vikings pass it over. Once again, they'll find some opening lanes on the right side. Nothing will be going, though. In Beavers territory now. Number 8 with the ball, powering forward. Could not find a lane. Will shovel back over. Shovel back again. And the Vikings will play hot potato with this as the refs will blow this.
Seems like there's a tussle between a Beaver and a Viking towards the far end of the field.
The weather has not been kind. It's starting to let up now, but that still does not mean that this has been a very rough scene for both teams, especially the Beavers, who were very extremely happy about coming into this game with the record they sat at. A lot of missed errors from how this ball has not been able to roll their way, constant drops, having the miscommunications, and now the Beavers will await to send this away to the Vikings. They will flip back to themselves. Ball up for grabs. It'll be recovered by OSU again. Pass back. Beavers will send it deep in Vikings territory. It'll be fielded by Sakil. Ball will rumble toward the try-zone as Oregon State will fall on it.
Like to see the Beavs kick that deep into the Vikings territory,
That was
trying to flip that
play.
field.
That was a very good play by the Beavers in order to flip the field deep. That was probably one of the few kicks that actually hasn't gone high up into the air, straight up by this Beavers team. Awaiting the shovel pass. Oregon State fighting for more yards. Isn't going to get much, though. This Vikings team has been very good at building a wall around these Beavers on their short field attempts. OSU trying to find a lane. Shovel over to number 4, Quincy Spurlock. Spurlock shovels it back. Over to Taryn. Taryn gets wrapped up by a herd of Vikings. Ball is out, recovered quickly by OSU. Trying to find a lane, but gets wrapped up immediately.
Would really like to see the Beavers convert a try right here, end the game on a positive note, just trying to,
Shovel back over to the
recover.
middle. Good recovery there, admittedly. Waiting for the ruck to break. Send it out. Hits a wall, gets tackled quickly by the Vikings. They are not trying to give up anything here late in this game. The Beavers have been shut out of the second half. All 9 of their points coming in the first half, as the Beavers looking to attempt something here in order to throw more points on the board. They'll shovel it out. The ball gets spun, recovered by OSU. They'll be short, and if they will field it just in time, it'll be recovered by the Vikings, who were able to break up the attempt.
So close to that try zone and
So
get the turnover.
close. The Vikings able with a good stand. The ball is out and out of bounds.
And I believe that will be the game.
That'll call it. The Vikings with a strong performance coming down to Corvallis, Oregon, with a fantastic load of energy in a 36-9 game, as Oregon State with the strong but yet still depleting loss after all the energy and momentum coming from last week. This is a very big shame for the Beavers.
Yeah, the turnovers and that sloppy play with the weather have just been tough for the Beavers. Those Vikings, they played tough. They played physical. They played gritty. They won the possession, and they won the line of scrimmage, so to say, that gave them the win today.
They did. We will be back with a quick recap of the highlight plays before letting you know what's next for these Oregon State Beavers men's rugby club. You're listening to KBVR TV. Stay tuned. Welcome back to KBVR TV. A final score for the men's rugby, 9-36 Western Washington. Oregon State failing to capitalize off of their big win last week versus Idaho. Coming back home here, not being able to exactly pull off the strong win that they wanted, sitting at an undefeated record, now being handed their first loss of the season. It's a very disappointing way to end this matchup.
That's right, Nick. After starting 3-0 in conference, hoping to get that fourth win against the Vikings. But the Vikings today, they were strong. They were physical. Eli Ashman and Liam Herring really leading that charge for the Vikings, converting those tries, and then that big play in the first half from Sho Selecki with that big run to convert that try.
That was massive, the 52-yard run. Oregon State's only points came in the first half, and all 3 came from penalty kicks.
That's right.
Not exactly a great method for winning multiple games. As for the future for Oregon State, what do you think this will now have for the remainder of the season?
Yeah, Coach Johnson's probably telling the guys just to, regroup, really focus on like I said before the game, high standard, low expectation, trying to keep them disciplined, trying to not let this loss affect them, and really just focusing, moving forward, shedding off this loss, and really just moving forward in the season.
Women's rugby will be next on November 23rd. Very exciting to see how the ladies will handle this one. Hopefully not as rough of the blowout loss here for this men's team against Western Washington. We'd like to shout out Rex Sports and Tracy for helping us set this up. Also Media Hub, great opportunity here. The weather was pretty rough, pretty nasty showing overall by the elements, but still some very fun rugby being played. A lot of highlight plays throughout the night. I've been your host, Nicholas Munoz, joined here by Brady Elliott on KBVR TV. Thank you for tuning in. 36-9 Western Washington over the Oregon State Beavers men's rugby team. Thank you for listening.